You ever read one of those creepy rules you have to follow at work or you die stories online and think, yeah, okay, nice campfire tale, but this would never fly in real life? Yeah, I used to think that too. My name is George Weber. I'm a park ranger in the US. I'm not going to tell you exactly which parks, because I still like my pension and I'm pretty sure I signed something that says I'm not allowed to talk about any of this. But I'm going to talk about it anyway, because if you're thinking about applying for a ranger job, or you already have one and they just handed you a special procedures sheet that makes your skin crawl, you need to hear this. I'll start with my first park, because that's where the rules started. I was 30 when I got hired on as a seasonal ranger at what I'll call Pine Hollow State Park. That's not its real name, but it's close enough. Think mountain foothills, dense pine, a big lake that turns black at night even in summer. Picture postcard stuff. Families with campers and kayaks in the day, whiskey and coyotes at night. I wasn't new to the outdoors. I grew up hunting and hiking with my old man. Joined the army out of high school. Came back, floated between jobs for a while. Being a ranger sounded like the perfect compromise. Outdoors, steady paycheck, some authority without being stuck in an office. My hobby is cooking, nothing fancy, just good food, so I like the idea of slow nights, a hot skillet, and quiet. I got hired as night shift ranger, seasonal, and thought it sounded relaxing. Orientating day looked normal at first. HR videos, fire safety, wildlife protocols, the usual don't get bitten, don't feed the bears, don't sue us stuff. Then the lead ranger, a guy named Marty, took me aside. Marty looked like he'd been carved out of old rope and cigarette smoke. Late 50s, sunburned neck, hands that never stopped moving. He had that permanent squint people get after decades of staring across tree lines. "You Weber?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir. That's for officers and idiots. I'm just Marty." He studied me like he was measuring lumber. "You ever worked nights before?" "In the army, guard duty, some warehouse security after that." He nodded, like that passed some invisible test. "Okay, good. You look like you can follow instructions. That's important." He led me to this tiny room behind the main office. Fluorescent light buzzing, old filing cabinets, a coffee maker that looked like it predated the park itself. He shut the door behind us and pulled open a drawer. "This is the part they don't put in the brochure," he said. "Every night ranger gets this talk. Some listen, some don't. The ones who don't," he shrugged, "we don't usually see them again." I thought he was joking. Then he handed me a laminated sheet of paper. At the top, in bold letters, it said, "Additional Night Shift Guidelines, Pine Hollow State Park." Underneath was a numbered list. I started reading, expecting some extra safety rules. By rule 3, my scalp was crawling. I'm going to reproduce those rules here as best as I remember them. Some of the wording might be slightly off. It's been a few years. But the important parts are burned into my brain. 1. The radio will occasionally pick up Unit 7. There is no Unit 7. Do not respond. Do not acknowledge. Turn the volume down until it stops. 2. If you see a second moon in the sky between 0100 and 0115, do not look directly at it. Keep your eyes on the ground. Do not comment on it over the radio. It is not a celestial event. 3. At 23:30, lock the ranger station door. If someone knocks after that, ask, "What time does the park close?" If the answer is anything other than dusk, do not open the door. Ignore further knocking. Do not look out the window. 4. If you hear children laughing in the woods after 2200, all units are to be immediately go to full lights out protocol. Turn off interior and exterior lights. Remain silent for 5 minutes. Do not attempt to locate the source. 5. Do not climb fire tower number 3 after midnight. If you find yourself on the stairs without remembering how you got there, descend immediately without looking down between the steps. 6. If you see an old man in a yellow raincoat on a clear night, do not let him get within 10 feet. You may say, "Trailhead is closed, sir," once. If he asks you for a cigarette, drop one on the ground and step back. Do not give your name if he asks. 7. Between 0210 and 0220, you may hear a siren that does not match park, local, or weather service alarms. This is not an emergency. Do not evacuate. Do not step outside the ranger station while the siren is audible. 8. Occasionally, the security monitors will show someone standing in the tree line, watching the building. If their face is obscured, you may ignore it. If their face is clearly visible and it is your own, unplug the monitors and remain in the interior office until sunrise. File an incident report in the morning. 9. Sunset sign off. Always say "goodnight" over the radio at 2100, even if you are alone on shift. You may hear someone say "Goodnight, Ranger" back. That is acceptable. Do not engage in further conversation. 10. If you find new rules added to this list by morning, read them carefully. They apply immediately. I looked up, waiting for the punchline. Some smirk from Marty, some "Gotcha kid, we like to haze the new guys" something. He just stared at me, no smile. "This a joke?" I asked. "I wish," he said. "You think I laminated a joke?" "Come on, Unit 7, second moon, an old man in a raincoat." He leaned against the filing cabinet, eyes hard. "Weber, I've been here 28 years. I got the same list on my first day. It was shorter than 3 rules. Every few years we get more. We add them when we survive whatever new thing showed up the night before." I tried to laugh. It came out 10. "So what? You're telling me..." "What exactly? That the park is haunted?" He scratched his jaw. "Haunted, cursed, thin spot in the world, I don't know. We had rangers quit after one night. We had rangers disappear. We had officially 2 suicides and 3 animal attacks that didn't look like any animal I know." He pointed at the sheet. "You want to keep this job, you follow the rules. You don't argue with them. You don't test them. You don't get curious. Curiosity is how you end up, as a rule." I looked at Rule 10 again. If you find new rules added. "Other parks have anything like this?" I asked. He gave me a look that said I'd just ask him how many angels could dance on a parking lot light. "Let's just get you through your first month here," he said. "Then we'll talk about other parks." I won't lie, the first few hours on the first night shift were boring as hell. The ranger station at Pine Hollow was a squat concrete building with a little front desk, a back office, and a bunk room with 2 beds. I brewed coffee, checked the radio, filled out logs. Campgrounds were mostly quiet by 2200. A few drunk laughs, a guitar badly playing Wonderwall on loop somewhere, but nothing weird. The whole time, those rules sat next to the logbook like an accusation. I kept glancing at the clock. At 2100 on the dot, my radio crackled. I remembered Rule 9 and, feeling stupid, pressed the button. Ranger Weber here?" I said. "Good night." Silence. Then a voice, faint, under static, said, "Good night, Ranger." I froze. It wasn't Marty. It wasn't anyone I'd heard in orientation. It sounded wrong. The cadence was off, like someone who'd heard human speech and was trying to copy it phonetically. Too precise, every consonant sharp. I put the radio down very carefully. "That's one," I muttered to myself. Not a coincidence. Around 22:15, I heard it. The faint sound of kids giggling outside. Now, to be clear, there were kids in the park. Families had checked in earlier. But the sound was wrong. Kids laughing around a campfire is all shouts and overlapping noise. This was synchronized, like 2 or 3 voices laughing in perfect time, same pitch, starting and stopping together. Rule 4 flashed in my head. Lights out protocol. I switched off the station's exterior floodlight, then the interior overheads. Only the small lamp over the logbook remained. I hesitated, then flipped that off too. Darkness settled in like a thick blanket. The only light was the faint glow from the radio's display. The laughter moved around the building. I could hear it clearly now, right outside the wall. No footsteps, no rustle of leaves, just that synchronized giggling. I sat in the chair, hands flat on my thighs, counting my breaths. 30 seconds, 60, 90. At around the 3-minute mark, something scraped against the plexiglass window by the door. Slow, like nails or claws dragging down it. The laughter stopped. I didn't move. The scraping went higher, then lower, then stopped. A soft tap, tap, tap followed. Then that same thin, wrong voice from the radio said, muffled through the door, "Ranger, let us in. It's cold." I checked the clock on my phone. 22:19. 5 minutes, I muttered. Rule said 5 minutes. The tap, tap, tap grew more insistent. The voice tried again, this time too high-pitched, like an adult pretending poorly to be a child. "Please, mister," it sang. "We're lost. We're scared. Let us in." I stared at the rules list, even though I couldn't read it in the dark. I just needed something solid to anchor my eyes on. At almost exactly the 5-minute mark, the pressure lifted. The tapping stopped. The air felt lighter, like that moment after you take off a heavy backpack. The laughter faded into the trees. I turned the lights back on with shaking hands. Okay, I thought. That's 2 for 2. The rest of the night, I didn't take my eyes off the clock. Over the next week, I saw enough to convince me the rules weren't some elaborate prank. The second moon thing happened on my fourth shift. I didn't look up, but I saw the silver-white glow brightening through the blinds, too bright for the single real moon that should have been there. The light had a silky quality to it, like a fluorescent bulb flickering on the verge of dying. I stared at the floor like it owed me money until the glow faded. The siren showed up on night 6, thin and warbling, coming from everywhere and nowhere. It didn't match any tornado, flood, or fire alarm I knew. It sounded like someone trying to imitate a siren with a metal pipe and a bad sense of rhythm. The old man in the yellow raincoat I met on week 2. Clear night, stars out, but his coat was dripping wet. He was standing at the edge of my headlights on the service road. I said, "Trailhead is closed, sir," like the rule allowed. He stepped closer, and I reversed the truck without thinking, gravel crunching under the tires. He paused and tilted his head. In my high beams, his face was weirdly smudged, blurred, like a photo where the subject moves just as the shutter goes off. "Get a cigarette, Ranger?" he asked. His voice was thick, like a bad recording slowed down a fraction too much. I don't even smoke, but Marty had shoved a pack into my jacket for the raincoat guy, as he so casually put it. I pulled one out, leaned out the window, and dropped it on the ground. "Help yourself," I said, keeping my distance. He stared at me for a few heartbeats too long, then bent not down but sideways, his torso folding at an angle that made my stomach flip to pick up the cigarette. "What's your name?" he asked, straightening. "Ranger," I said. He smiled. It was the only thing in his face that was in focus. "Not tonight," he said, "but soon." He turned and walked into the tree line without another word. The second his boots hit the shadow of the pines, the wet dripping sound stopped, like someone had cut a tape. I drove back to the station and seriously considered quitting right then, but I didn't. Partly because I needed the money, partly because I'm stubborn, and partly because, even though it scared the hell out of me, I wanted to understand what the hell was going on. Yeah, I know, curious. Marty would have rolled his eyes. The worst thing in those early weeks, though, wasn't the second moon, or the fake children, or the raincoat man. It was Unit 7. Rule 1 says there's no Unit 7. Every ranger is assigned a number. You sign in at the start of shift, sign out at the end. We had Units 1 through 6. That's it. My first time hearing Unit 7, it was around midnight. I was doing paperwork, half listening to the radio chatter, Marty checking in from the campsite loop, another ranger, Jess, talking about some idiot trying to feed Cheetos to a raccoon. The static hissed, then a new voice faded in, overlapping theirs. Male, low, with this weird, breathy undercurrent. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7, requesting status on missing party from Trail Ridge. Do you copy?" I frowned. The call sign structure was right, the phrasing right. It sounded like someone who'd been on the job a while, not a joker. I glanced at the sheet. Rule 1. Do not respond. Do not acknowledge. Jess must have been new to the rules or tired or both. Say again, Unit 7, she said. Didn't catch that. There was a crackle. Then her voice again, but it wasn't her, not really. Dispatch, this is Unit 7, Jess said, but the tone was wrong, like someone wearing her pitch like a cheap Halloween mask. Requesting status on missing party from Trail Ridge. Do you copy? Silence. Jess, cut it out, Marty said. That's not funny. Jess laughed. It sounded like her and like someone else at the same time. A half-second delay echoing under the words. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. The double voice said again, louder. Requesting status. Do you copy? Do you copy? Do you copy? Each repetition got more distorted, as if the radio was underwater. My hand hovered over the mic. Every instinct from my army days told me to respond, to get control of the channel. The rule stared back at me. Do not respond. I forced myself to sit on my hands. After about 30 seconds, the feed cut off with a high-pitched squeal. Real Jess came on a moment later, sounding freaked. This is Unit 2? I didn't say that. I didn't key up. Copy, Unit 2, Marty said, slow and careful. Everyone, switch to Channel 2 for the night. We changed channels. Unit 7 didn't follow. Later, when Jess came back to the station, she was pale. I didn't hit my radio, she repeated. I swear, but I heard something. Like something was pressed against the speaker from the other side. Breathing. We didn't talk about it more. We didn't have to. About a month into the job, I came in for my shift and saw something that made my bladder think very seriously about quitting. The laminated rules sheet was still on the desk, but the list was longer. There was now an 11th rule. It wasn't there when I left at 0700 that morning. Nobody had said anything about new procedures, but there it was, in the same font, same formatting, same lamination. 11. If you receive a phone call on the landline between 0300 and 0310, do not answer. If you answer by mistake, do not speak. The caller will use the voice of someone you know. Do not react. Hang up immediately. I walked to the door of the back office, where the landline was mounted. It was an old beige thing with physical buttons. I'd used it twice, to call maintenance, and never at night. Hey Marty, I called over the radio. You add a new rule? Static. Then, negative, he said. What's the rule? I read it out. He was silent for a long time. Then he sighed. Damn it. That means it's learning. Learning what? Us, he said. Just do what it says, Weber. You got the bad luck shift. Bad luck shift? Shh, he clicked off. I checked the clock. 22:05. 5 hours until 0300. The first half of the night was uneventful. I patrolled the campground, talked to a couple who were convinced they'd heard a mountain lion. They hadn't, just a big raccoon having an attitude. Logged a fallen tree on one of the day trails. But the whole time, I kept glancing at that office phone like it was a coiled snake. At 02:55, I was back in the ranger station, sitting at the desk with the landline right next to me, just outside arm's reach. The clock ticked over 0300. Nothing. 0301. The wind shifted outside. I heard the whisper of pine needles scraping each other. 0302. The radio hissed softly. No voices, just open carrier noise. 0303. The landline rang. My heart lunged into my throat. It was such a normal sound, just a standard, shrill office phone ring. Not ghostly, not distorted. That almost made it worse. I stared at it. Another ring. My brain did that stupid human thing where it tried to rationalize. Maybe it's HQ. Maybe it's a wrong number. Rules or not, what if it's an emergency? What if someone's hurt out there and this is their only line? The rules sheet was under my hand. The plastic edge dug into my palm. The phone rang a third time. Damn it, I muttered and grabbed the receiver. I know. It said don't answer. I'm not pretending I made a smart choice. I'm just telling you what happened. I pulled it to my ear, my thumb hovering over the hook to hang up. I didn't say anything. For a second, all I heard was a faint buzz, not static, more like distance, a deep, empty hum. Then a voice spoke, clear as day, not tinny like a call, just right there in my ear. George? Honey? I almost dropped the phone. It was my mother's voice, not like my mom, not an impression. Her. Same little Midwestern lilt on honey. Same soft click on the G in George. I hadn't heard my mother's voice in 3 years, not since the funeral. My hand shook so hard, the plastic creaked. My throat locked up. Everything in me screamed to answer, to say, Mom? To ask what the hell this was, how this was possible. The rule echoed in my head. Do not speak. The caller will use the voice of someone you know. The thing on the line waited. I could feel it waiting, like there was someone on the other end leaning close, listening for the slightest breath. George, she said again, a little more forceful. There was a hitch this time, like the word snagged on something. George? Georgie? Baby, why didn't you answer the phone that night? The question punched through me. I hadn't told anyone at the park about that night, about ignoring a call from a number I didn't recognize, only to find out later it was the hospital. By the time I called back, it was too late. My vision swam. I forgive you, it said. My mother's voice wrapped around something else. We all forgive you. Just talk to me. Just say hello. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. My tongue pressed against my teeth, trying to form words on its own. I slammed the receiver down. The phone rang immediately, like it hadn't been properly hung up. Once, twice, 3 times. Each ring louder, almost rattling the plastic. On the 4th ring, It cut off mid-tone. The office went very, very quiet. My whole body felt like it had been run over. I walked out of the back office, shut the door, and sat at the front desk, staring at the rules sheet until the sun came up. In the morning, I told Marty. He listened without interrupting, then grunted. Yeah, he said. Figured that happened soon. He tried my ex-wife's voice the first time. Jess got her dad. It's fishing, trying to see what works. You said it's learning, I said. Like this is some system getting updated? He shrugged. Or something's been out there a long time and it's finally figured out radios and phones. I don't know. I'm just an old man trying to get to retirement without ending up as a missing person report. Why stay? I asked. After all this, why the hell stay? He looked out the window at the tree line where the woods started to thicken. Because if people like us leave, he said, then it's just tourists and teenagers and families between that and the world. And I've seen what it does when nobody's watching. I managed almost a full season at Pine Hollow before the incident that finally pushed me to transfer. We had a late autumn cold snap. The leaves were mostly down, the campgrounds half empty. Nights were longer and meaner. You could feel winter crouched just beyond the ridge lines. Jess was out with a group of volunteers clearing a trail earlier in the day and radioed in that someone had spray painted a pentagram on the base of Fire Tower number 3. Teenagers probably. Occult vandalism isn't exactly rare in state parks. We logged it. My shift started at 1900. By 2200, the campground was quiet. I did a loop, checked restrooms, made sure nobody had left the fire smoldering. At 23:15, I was headed back up the main service road when my radio crackled. Dispatch, this is Unit 2, Jess's voice came through. I've got, something weird at Tower number 3. Gonna need another set of eyes. I checked the map, clipped to my dash. She was already near the tower. I was about 15 minutes away. Copy, Unit 2, I said. On my way. Thanks, George, she said. I frowned. We didn't use first names on the radio. My fingers tightened on the wheel. Unit 2, confirm location, I asked. Silence. Unit 2, repeat, I said. What's your location? More static. Then the channel cleared with a pop. Marty came on. Unit 3, this is Unit 1. You didn't catch that, did you? Yeah, I said slowly. Jess at Fire Tower number 3. She's not, Marty said. She's sitting 10 feet from me at the station eating leftover lasagna and complaining about the coffee. Say hi, Jess. Her voice came faintly in the background. Hey, George. My skin crawled. Copy, I said. So who the hell just asked me to come to Fire Tower number 3? We all let that hang for a moment. Whatever it was, Marty said, it's trying too hard. You know the rule. Don't go near the tower after midnight. It's only 23:20, I said. I'd be in and out before. Don't get cute, he snapped. You know damn well how time gets around that place. He wasn't wrong. There was something about the hill that Fire Tower number 3 sat on. Compasses spun, GPS glitching was common. Hikers complained they walked 10 minutes only to realize an hour had passed, or the other way around. I drove anyway. Look, I know that sounds stupid. In hindsight, it was. But there was a rational part of my brain arguing, what if it's not the thing mimicking jazz? What if it's some idiot with a ham radio pranking us, or some real emergency, and you ignore it because you're scared of a list? So I told myself I'd go near the tower, not up it, not after midnight, just close enough to make sure there wasn't some injured camper or, worse, some actual psycho waiting up there. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt. I parked the truck at the little lot below the hill and killed the engine. The woods were very quiet, no wind. The stars felt too bright. I checked my watch, 23:32. Up ahead, the metal skeleton of Fire Tower number 3 cut into the sky. 90-foot structure, open stairs, a little cab at the top. I'd been up there during the day. The views were incredible. At night, it looked like a ladder into nothing. I walked up the path, flashlight sweeping. The spray-painted pentagram was still at the base. Someone had done a sloppy job of trying to scrub it off. That's when I noticed the steps. Rule 5 had always bothered me. Do not climb Fire Tower number 3 after midnight. If you find yourself on the stairs without remembering how you got there, descend immediately without looking down between the steps. That second part, if you find yourself on the stairs without remembering how you got there, like what? You just blink and you're halfway up? I stepped onto the bottom platform. 1 step, 2, 3. The metal rang under my boots. The night air felt colder, sharper. My breath puffed white. Nothing. I shone my flashlight up through the grid of stairs. The beam vanished into darkness before reaching the top. That was wrong. 90 feet isn't that high. I took a breath. This is dumb, I muttered. You checked. No one's here. Go home. I stepped back off the stairs. My boot hit metal. I looked down. I was standing on a step, not at the bottom, halfway up. The beam of my flashlight showed land about 40 feet below, the truck's headlights a distant glow through the trees. For a second, my brain refused to accept it. I remember stepping on the first platform. I remember thinking this was stupid. I did not remember climbing 30 steps. My heart hammered. My mouth went dry. This was exactly the situation the rule described. If you find yourself on the stairs without remembering how you got there, descend immediately without looking down between the steps. Don't look down between the steps, which meant there was something down there, not the ground, something that needed you to look in the gaps. I kept my eyes on the rails, a white-knuckle grip on the cold metal. I turned slowly and started down. Step, step, step. The whole structure vibrated faintly, like something big was moving below. The wind picked up, moaning through the beams. Or maybe that wasn't the wind. Halfway down, something brushed my ankle through the gap. Light. Testing. I bit the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood and focused on the next step and the next. Don't look down. Don't look down. Whatever was below me started whispering. At first, it sounded like the wind in pipe needles. Then, As my ears adjusted, I realized it was words. Dozens, maybe hundreds of voices layered on top of each other, every one of them just a little off key, like a chore singing different songs in the same key. Somewhere in that mess, I heard my name. George, George, Ranger. My foot slipped on a patch of frost, and my instinct was to glance down to see where I was falling. I forced my head forward, slammed my shoulder into the rail instead. Pain flared, but it kept me from looking. The whispers rose in pitch, frustrated, like a crowd at a game watching someone almost drop the ball in the end zone. "You don't have to be afraid," one voice said, louder than the others. It sounded like my father this time. "Just look down just once. It's beautiful down here." I didn't answer. I didn't slow down. By the time my boots hit solid ground, my legs were jelly. I stumbled off the last step and into the dirt. The whispers cut off, just gone. The air warmed by 10 degrees. I turned around. The tower was just there, silent, metal, empty. I didn't see anything between the steps, which almost made it worse, because there hadn't been nothing down there. I radioed in. "Unit 3 to Unit 1, I said, voice thin. "Fire tower number 3 is clear. I'm heading back, and you can add my official recommendation. We burn this damn thing down." Marty exhaled, long and slow. "Copy that, Weber. Come on home." I lasted 6 months at Pine Hollow. 6 months of second moons, fake children, Unit 7, Raincoat Man, the phone. 6 months of watching people come in and out of the park, oblivious, smiling in their REI gear, posing for selfies at the overlook while something watched from the tree line. We did our job. We followed the rules. Campers went home with nothing worse than bug bites and sunburn. But it wore on me. You can't spend that long in a place where reality frays at the edges and not have it start getting into your bones. I'd wake up in the apartment on my days off convinced I was still on shift, that the landline would ring or that I'd look out my bedroom window and see the second moon. I started drinking more than I should, started losing time in small ways, standing at the sink, blinking, and suddenly 20 minutes gone. The final straw came when I found a camper, 8-year-old daughter, standing at the edge of the lake at 0200, alone, pajama legs soaked up to the knees, staring straight out into the black water. She didn't remember leaving the tent, didn't act scared, just kept saying she thought she heard someone calling her name from under the water, saying it sounded like her mom. We got her back to her parents. They didn't believe the part about the voice, just thought she sleepwalked. I didn't argue. That night, I put in for a transfer. Here's the part you're probably waiting for, the twist, where I realize it's not just Pine Hollow, or that I brought something with me, or that all these parks have their own sets of rules. You'd be right on all 3 counts. I asked for a transfer anywhere else. I didn't care where. Desert, swamp, prairie, didn't matter. I just wanted out from under those pines. They sent me to a different state, different terrain. I'm not going to name it either, but picture broadleaf forest, rolling hills, a big river cutting through the middle, less elevation, more humidity. The kind of place with fireflies in the summer and leaves that turn so bright in the fall it hurts your eyes. I told myself, new park, new start. Maybe Pine Hollow was just cursed. Some bad intersection of geology and history. Maybe this one would be blissfully boring. On my first day, I met the chief ranger, a woman named Alvarez, early 40s, sharp eyes, sharper tongue. She went through the usual onboarding with military efficiency. At the end, she closed the binder, looked at me for a long moment, and said, "You did nights at Pine Hollow, right?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "You know it?" "We get their transfers sometimes," she said. "Those who stay long enough to become permanent. You lasted a while there." 6 months, I said. Didn't feel like a while. She snorted. "Most don't make it through the first full moon," she said casually. My stomach flipped. "So you know about their situation?" "Yeah." She leaned back in her chair. "We have our own situation here. Different flavor, same menu." I stared at her. "You're not even going to pretend this is normal, are you?" She smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You've already seen behind the curtain, Weber. I don't have to waste time pretending there isn't a stage." She pulled a sheet of paper from a folder and slid it across the desk. I didn't pick it up at first. I just stared. Even from that angle, I could see the heading. Night Shift Supplemental Procedures, Riverbend State Park. "So this is what? Your version of the rules?" I asked. "Guidelines," she said. "Keeps us alive. Keeps visitors from becoming mulch. Same as you had before, just tuned to this place." She tapped the paper. "Read it before your first shift. Memorize the ones that apply to you." I flipped it toward me. My blood ran cold. Rule number 3 said, 3. If you see Ranger G. Weber listed on any incident report dated before your hiring date, do not investigate further. Bring the report directly to my office. Do not read past the first line. I looked up slowly. "You wrote this after you knew I was coming?" I asked, my voice sounding small in my ears. She shook her head. "That rule's been on that sheet for 3 years," she said, "long before I knew you existed." I sat very still. I believe in coincidence. You kind of have to in this line of work. But there's a point where the odds stack so weirdly that you either admit something else is at play, or you go insane trying to keep your worldview neat and tidy. I thought of the landline at Pine Hollow using my mother's voice, the tower whispering my name, the extra rule appearing overnight. "It knew I was coming," I said quietly. "It knew someone with that name was coming," she corrected. "Names have weight. Names echo. Look, Weber, you can walk out that door right now. Nobody will blame you. We're short-staffed as hell, but I'd rather have a vacancy than a funeral." I looked down at the sheets again. It had 12 rules. Some more familiar in concept. Don't respond to certain calls. Don't go certain places at certain times. Others were new flavors of weird. 1. Between 0000 and 0001, do not look at the river. Close blinds if working near windows. The surface will show you something it wants you to follow. 2. If you hear drums in the woods after midnight, that is not a cultural event. Do not attempt to locate the source. 3. The one with my name. 4. The old stone well on Ridge Trail does not exist on any official map. If a visitor asks for directions to it, tell them it is closed for renovation and radio me immediately. If you see a person standing in the river in full daylight, staring upstreams, do not call out, do not approach, log the time and location, check the missing persons database in the morning. 6. At 03:33, the motion sensors in the maintenance yard will trigger. Do not investigate. Do not review the camera footage between 03:30 and 03:40. 7. If you find a set of footprints that start in the middle of a trail and lead into the woods but never back out, do not follow them. Mark the area as restricted for maintenance. 8. During fog advisories, visitors may report extra trails that lead them in circles. Tell them to stay put and blow a whistle 3 times. If they are actually on park property, we will find them. If they are not, we cannot help them. 9. The maintenance shed sometimes smells like pond water at night. If you notice this, do not open any cabinets. Come back in the morning. 10. If you see yourself on the riverbank between 2100 and 2200, do not let it see you. Leave the area and radio in a code 1019, returning to station. File a report with as much detail as you remember. 11. Always say, "See you tomorrow," when you sign off at sunrise. If someone says, "No you won't," over the radio, switch to channel 3. You will not use that channel again for the remainder of your shift. 12. If new rules appear, they are to be assumed valid. Report them to me, but follow them first. Ask questions later. I laughed once, short and humorless. "You guys all just live like this?" I asked. Shift after shift, pretending this is just part of the job. She shrugged. People pretend a lot of things to get through the day. Some pretend their marriage isn't collapsing. Some pretend they're doing important work instead of covering up for the fact that the world leaks around the edges. She gave me a searching look. "Can you follow rules, Weber?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I follow them there, mostly. That's why I'm still breathing." "Then you've got as good a shot as any of us," she said. "And if it makes you feel any better, whatever's out there likes rules too, or it hates them and it's forced to obey. Either way, they work." "Until they don't," I muttered. She didn't argue. My first week at Riverbend was quiet by the standards I was used to. No second moons, no voice on the landline. The river did its thing, flowing black and lazy under the starlight. The frogs screamed, the mosquitoes ate. I followed the rules. At midnight, I kept my back to the windows, eyes on my logbook, while something flickered on the surface of the water outside. At 03:33, the maintenance yard's motion alert chimed. I very deliberately did not check the camera feed. The alert cleared on its own after a minute. On day 5, I was sorting old incident reports in the back office during a slow patch, trying to get familiar with the park's history. Most of them were mundane. Lost hikers found 3 hours later, kids with bee stings, one guy who got his trailer stuck halfway down a restricted fire road and tried to bribe a ranger to look the other way. I was halfway through a stack from 3 years ago when I saw it. Ranger G. Weber, date 10/14, year redacted for your sake. Incident type, missing persons. I froze. This was 3 years before I'd ever heard of Riverbend, 3 years before I even considered becoming a ranger. The rule flashed in my head. If you see Ranger G. Weber listed on any incident report dated before your hiring date, do not investigate further. Bring the report directly to my office. Do not read past the first line. I'd already read past that first line. It felt like something thick and cold slid down my spine. The temptation to keep reading was almost unbearable. I wanted to know, was it some other G. Weber? A coincidence? Was my name on more of these? What had I done according to this? But if Pine Hollow had taught me anything, it was that certain kinds of knowing weren't worth the price. I closed the file, careful not to let my eyes skim the next lines, and took it straight to Alvarez. She was in her office going over budget spreadsheets, looking like she was 3 steps away from murdering Excel. I set the folder on her desk and pointed at the top. It happened, I said. She read the header, jaw tightening. Damn, she murmured. I was hoping that one would stay buried until you retired. I sat down. So I'm not the first me you've had here, I said. It wasn't really a question. She tapped the folder. I'm not allowed to tell you what's in there, she said. I don't know what happens if you read it, but the last person who tried to cheat one of these rules, we are still finding ways to explain what happened to his family. You wrote the rule? She shook her head. No, it was there when I took this office. The folder was already in the cabinet. No record of who wrote it originally, or when. I rubbed my hands over my face. You realize how insane this sounds, right? She gave me a tired smile. You worked nights at Pine Hollow, she said. We passed insane about 5 exits back. I could give you a dozen small stories from Riverbend. The times we saw a man standing midstream in broad daylight, motionless in waist-deep water, and then found his 1970s missing persons report the next morning. The visitor who kept walking in circles on a trail that should have been a straight loop. The old stone well that only showed up on foggy mornings, and the way sound fell dead around it. But the one that made me realize this wasn't confined to places, that it might be following me, or at least paying particular attention, happened in late summer. We'd had thunderstorms all week. The river was high and angry, carrying branches and debris. Visitors were officially discouraged from swimming. Unofficially, just told, you'll die if you're stupid. My shift started with the usual. Check the campgrounds, make sure nobody had set up a hammock in a tree that looked ready to drop a limb. I stopped by the boat ramp to make sure the caution tape was still up. As I pulled in, My headlights swept across the shore. Someone was standing at the edge of the water. From behind, it looked like a man in a ranger uniform, boots half sunk in the mud, hands at his sides. I killed the engine and got out, rain misting on my face. "Hey," I called. "Ramp's closed. You can't be down here." He didn't move. I walked closer, boots squelching. "Hey man," I said. "You deaf? You need to move." He turned his head slightly. It was like watching a glitch in a video game. One frame he was facing the river, the next he was angled toward me, with no movement in between. He didn't turn all the way, just enough for me to see his profile. It was my profile, my nose, my jawline, the same stupid cowlick in my hair, right down to the scar on my chin from when I fell off my bike at 12. My heart tried to crawl out of my throat, rolled then. If you see yourself on the river bank between 2100 and 2200, do not let it see you. I hadn't let it see my face, not fully. Maybe that counted for something. Very slowly, without making any sudden movements, I took a step back. Mud sucked at my boots, loud in the quiet. The other me made a faint creaking sound, like old wood bending. He started to turn more, like someone forcing a mannequin to rotate. I didn't wait to see the rest. I turned and walked back to my truck, every nerve screaming at me not to run. Predators chase running prey. I didn't know if that applied to whatever this was, but I wasn't going to test it. My hand shook as I fumbled for the keys, got the door open, slid inside. I didn't look toward the river as I started the engine. In the side mirror, just before I pulled out, I saw something. Not his full reflection, just eyes. My eyes. Except they were too bright in the dark, catching the headlights wrong, like an animal's. I drove back to the station faster than I should have. Alvarez listened, jaw tight, then wrote, "Rule 13. Do not approach the riverbank if you are alone between 20:30 and 22:30 on a sticky note, and slapped it onto her copy of the procedures. "Guess we're extending that one," she said. "You're very calm about this," I said. "You're very alive about this," she replied. "That puts you ahead of the last guy who saw himself on the bank." I didn't ask what happened to him. You might be wondering why I didn't quit after that, why I'm still a ranger, why I'm not flipping burgers in some brightly lit, ghost-free fast food joint, or stocking shelves at a Walmart at 2 a.m., where the worst thing I'd have to deal with is a raccoon in the parking lot. The truth is ugly and simple. I'm good at this. Not because I'm brave. I'm not. I'm scared more nights than I'm not. But I learn fast. I follow rules. I take them seriously, even when they sound insane. And I've seen what happens when people like me aren't there. At Pine Hollow, before my time, they had a stretch of 3 months where the park was short on staff. Night shifts were covered by whoever could stay late. Nobody passed down the rules properly. A teenager on a seasonal contract ignored a noise complaint about kids laughing in the woods and went to check it out alone. You can guess how that ended. I saw the pictures they didn't show the family. Whatever got him had tried to make him look normal again afterward. Stuffed what it didn't eat down into his clothes, put his hat back on his head, left him leaning against a tree like he'd just fallen asleep. No parent should have to see that. At a river bend, we had a folk event where visitors started calling in from extra trails that didn't exist on any map. One guy insisted he could see the ranger station, but every time he tried to walk toward it, it got further away. If we hadn't had the whistle protocol in place, half a dozen people would have walked themselves right out of this world into whatever hall of mirrors was trying to swallow them. But we did, so they didn't. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who can look at a list that says, if you see an extra moon, don't look at it, and go, okay, sure, without needing to poke it with a stick first. We need more people like that. This is my life. I get up, I drink bad coffee, I put on a uniform and I go to work in places where reality is thin and something on the other side is pressing its fingers through. I don't know if it's one entity across many parks or a bunch of regional freaks that all read the same playbook. I don't know if it's nature or supernatural or something we don't have words for yet. I just know it likes attention, it likes curiosity, it likes to be acknowledged. That's why the rules work. They deny it what it wants. Don't look, don't answer, don't follow, don't talk back. Simple stuff, hard in practice. The last rule. I'm writing this on a night shift. Yeah, I know. Big horror cliche, but it's true. I'm sitting in the back office at River Bend, blinds drawn so I don't catch the river at the wrong time, radio on low, landline within reach, although this park's rules don't say anything about 0300 calls. The incident report with my name on it is in a locked drawer 10 feet from me. Some nights, I swear I can hear paper shifting, like it's breathing. Outside, the woods are doing their quiet, dangerous nighttime thing. Owls, crickets, something bigger moving along the tree line that I hope is just a deer. On the desk next to me is a new sheet of paper. I didn't print it. Alvarez didn't print it. It was just there when I came in. Same font, same layout, same lamination. It's a single line, no number, just if you ever tell anyone about the rules, make sure they understand this is not a story. I don't know when that one showed up or who is it for. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's for you. Because here's the thing, my friend, I know how this sounds. I know you're probably reading this on your phone, lying in bed, scrolling past other creepypasta and thinking, nice vibe, good twist, dude's clearly making this up. I hope you're right. I hope this is just a story and I'm just a bored ranger with a dark sense of humor. But if you ever get a job offer at a park, any park, and on your first day someone takes you into a back office, shuts the door, and hands you a sheet of additional guidelines that make your scalp prickle, don't laugh, don't argue, don't say this has to be a joke. Just read the rules, follow them, and if one night your phone rings at 0300 and your mother's voice asks you why you never answered that call years ago, hang up, please. I'd kind of like you to stick around long enough to read the next incident report, because I'm still here, I'm still working, I still sign off every sunrise with "see you tomorrow," and I listen for that one voice that sometimes comes back with "no you won't." And when I hear it, I switch channels and I pretend everything is fine. That's the last rule nobody writes down. Keep doing the job anyway, because something has to stand between the second moon and the people who don't even know to look up.